Are we, all right, sweet, awesome.
So, Donnie, I never got your last name. I'm sorry.
Cappy, C-A-P-I.
Donnie Cappy.
Yeah. Let's do the walk.
Valuetainment headquarters, huh?
Yes, sir. That's it right there. This is the wall. All Pat's interviews. First time I saw this in person was awesome. George W., Jordan Peterson, Kobe Bryant, one of the most famous interviews.
Yes.
And all of them. Here's the logo right there. So you know it's the real deal.
Yes, absolutely.
So absolutely. We all know we're in the right place. There's Leo Kai, the Joker and Batman. It's true personifications of themselves, right? One's a Joker, yeah. One's Batman.
I've often saw the Joker and Batman in the back of those podcasts, those interviews.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there used to be the Incredible Hulk in the background too. And as we continue to build out the podcast moving forward, it's had different forms, it's had different shapes, like things in the background, but I'm excited to see what's going to be included in the future in the new room that we're going to be having. So awesome. Let's get into it. So we got that. So the conscious business system. King, if you could share with me a little bit more and go back into the conscious business system so I can understand a little better. And then I want to talk about the LinkedIn strategies that you have, that you've shared with me in the past that I feel like are very beneficial to all intrapreneurs or entrepreneurs. And then also, I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through the Advanced Business Strategies course, which I know that you're planning on including in your program for individuals that join. So I want to go through ABS as well and kind of, give a breakdown as to what's included. Just we'll go onto the website and I'll show you some things there. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
So I'll bring my screen up here to show you, again, Conscious Business Systems platform by going to the tool, the brain. Now, let me know you can see my screen.
Yes, sir, I can.
All right, so we start off with Conscious Business Systems, and I'll bring up, again, this diagram here. And again, Conscious Business Systems are basically 11 key systems that I realized that through my experience and doing my research from successful folks such as Patrick Bet-David, Napoleon Hill, Stephen R. Covey, Michael Gerber, E-Myth Academy, those books really helped shape, even Deepak Chopra with the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, a lot of Wayne Dyer. So those really influenced a lot of me understanding what I felt were systems that was necessary for a business owner to be able to build relationships and then leverage those relationships to generate financial capital. And that's really what the core of Conscious Business Systems is really all about. I like to say that with Conscious Business Systems, I can take a financial investment and make it grow 10 times that within 12 months. So in other words, a $25,000 investment utilizing Conscious Business Systems over a 12-month period of time, I can make that grow for that candidate, for my client to be $250,000 or whatever they invest. The minimum is $25,000 just because of what it takes to get a lot of these things going in the context of creating websites, creating podcasts, social media exposure, marketing, branding. So even though I'm not a marketing branding company, we use a lot of that to get the message out there. I'm much more of a person that uses systems to make laser point connections. So for example, if I have, and I have extensive networks such as my Conscious Business Network, where I have over 150 conscious leaders who I've vetted, I've talked to, I know personally, and I know what kind of business they're doing. So for example, if you were to come to me and say, well, King, I'm looking for Conscious Business Systems to help grow Valuetainment's client base, then I will sit down with you and ask you what type of clients you're looking for. Give me a description of what type of clients, from, are you looking for startups? You're looking for more established businesses? Do they have to be at a certain income bracket? Do they have to be at certain industries? So once we have that conversation, I can then find you 10 people in my network that fit that criteria for you, that I believe that depending on what your ticket price is, let's say the ticket price is $5,000. So if I can find you 10 people, I have, and the way I use my business systems and my social capital combined, that I would say you would have a 60% closing ratio with those 10 people. Because of the fact is I have enough social capital with them, they would know that I'm not going to just send them any kind of offering. I'm not spamming them with just any kind of offer. So if I send them something that says this warrants some attention, and then I do the warm handshake, they're going to give you the opportunity to give your pitch and offer your value to see if it fits what they're looking for. The reason I don't say 100% is because timing may be off with that person. They might not be ready to move just because of the fact is right now they're going through some other things business-wise, but from a financial standpoint, they would have the means to be able to pay that $5,000 or whatever your ticket price is. So that won't be the issue. And so I use conscious business systems to be that intentional, to make sure that when I do, because I'm a person that believes in quality over quantity. I don't want to try to send you 10,000 folks and then again, only 5 or 10 people buy. I'd rather send you 10 folks and then still go for that same 5 or 6 people to purchase at a 60% rate. So let's start off with the number one. And the reason I'm able to make that kind of statement is because number one, it all starts with purpose. People within the conscious communities that I connect to and build with, and there are several different networks. There's a Conscious Capitalism Network, which I was a previous member of, former president of the DC chapter, founder and president of the DC chapter. And I'm also members of conscious business communities. There's several other socially conscious or socially responsible business communities that I'm a member of. And the thing about each one of those communities is that purpose, or why you're in business, having a higher purpose, is always key. So that's why that's number one. A person that I'm going to connect you to will want to know, what's the purpose of Valuetainment? And it can't be just to make money, right? That won't be enough. Or we just want to train clients. We just want to be providing educational material. It's like, but what's the higher purpose behind educational material? Well, to train entrepreneurs so that they can become more marketable in the marketplace, and at the same time bring value to the marketplace, right? And it may be a social value in that context as well. So that's the first system we want to build, is getting your purpose in sync and online. Then number two is principles. And principles come out of, I like Stephen Covey's definition of principles. He says principles are ever present, and you can't change them. They're non-changing and ever present, like gravity, right? It's there, and we might not like gravity, but it's there. We break ourselves against gravity, but we can't change gravity. And a lot of people confuse principles with values. And the difference that and I like his definition, he says, values are your beliefs. Like the mafia would say, well, our value is that we're not going to sell drugs near schools, or we don't kill family members of the mafia, right? That might be a value system. And that's just beliefs. And beliefs are, the consequences of beliefs is that you break the consequence of breaking a value is a belief system, where the consequences of breaking a principle is something that's going to be universal, that's going to happen to you. You break yourself against those principles. So example, for me, my core principles are, number one, integrity. I'm a person who believes that you have to operate in integrity. That's a core principle of mine. So I look to connect with other folks who have that similar core principle. Because if we have that similar core principle, love is another principle of mine. Wisdom is a principle of mine. So I like to connect with folks who are in that kind of space. And typically, if I have those kind of connections and I meet someone like yourself and you have similar principles, then right there, the purpose and the principles are aligned. Those are the two key elements right there that's going to want to bring someone interested in talking to you and hearing what you have to say about your product. Number three is faith. when I talk about faith, I'm talking about faith in the context, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has this quote: faith is being able to walk up a staircase and not see the next stair and still put your foot out there knowing that you're going to step on that stairs, right? And continue to walk. And what I believe is that when you're raising capital, which is what my systems really are designed to do, help you raise capital, social capital and financial capital, that faith has to be a key component of that, because you haven't achieved it yet, but you have to believe that it can be achieved. I like to say, as long as it's not impossible, that's the first question. Is it impossible? Well, if it's probable, then we can achieve it. You just got to look at how it was achieved in the past and duplicate similar behaviors and actions to facilitate that. But as long as it's possible, then it's achievable. And faith gives us that kind of thinking and that kind of mindset. The next thing we look at is the plan.
So faith, right? Going on, not to cut you off, King.
No,
Faith would be a situation where somebody who's very much invested into the crypto community, who has a bunch of faith into the future of cryptocurrencies, versus somebody who's a little bit more, against that trend, or isn't really seeing the long-term benefit of being involved in crypto. And so, purpose, principles, but then faith would be another key point to where people either match up with you or don't, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I'm a person who believes that you never really sell anything. No one wants to be sold anything anyway. You offer an opportunity, right? And if a person sees a value in your opportunity, take advantage of your opportunity, right? Like your organization name is Valuetainment, because you provide value as well as entertainment with the podcasts and interviews that you all are doing, right? Yes. So to me, going back to what you're saying, faith is that, first of all, I believe that cryptocurrency from the start, that's a faith statement, is something that's valued there. Now, I might not know all the details of how it works, but I have enough faith for me to begin to start to research and study and increase my knowledge and competence of cryptocurrency. So it's faith there. So I go in with that mindset that it is achievable, but I just don't have the knowledge. So let me improve my knowledge.
Sure. Okay.
And then in faith also, as relates to relationships that we're going to build. Faith has to come into play that, say, for example, there's going to have to be a certain amount of trust that's extended when you and I do business with each other. Like, if I sign you up, and I use the terminology, the 3D discernment that you want to do in 30 days, client, vendor, or partner. If I'm signing you up as a vendor of mine, I'm having faith that you're going to honor the service agreement that we stipulated, right? So, it's in writing, I'm still extending a certain amount of faith and trust that you will follow through. And as each time you've accomplished those goals, then my faith grows stronger in you. And every time I get something done in my track record, then my faith in my social capital and my network grows as well. So for every accomplishment, faith in my network, faith in myself, and then faith in the actual systems grow. So it feeds itself with every accomplishment in that context. But, and again, these systems are laid out in hierarchical order. So it's not just jumble. So in other words, there have to be purpose, number one. Number two, we have to look at your principles. Number three, faith. Are you a spiritual person as well? So we talk about faith in that context, right? Yes. People want to know that you have some form, you might not necessarily have the same religious dogma, but you do have to believe in some form of a greater source outside of you and a universal energy. It has to be some belief in that if we're going to sit down and talk as well. Next is plan. So of course, plan is key. And I'm talking about not just your business plan, your life plan. Because when we talk about dealing with the conscious capitalism community or a conscious world of business, conscious entrepreneurs, people want to know really what you're doing with your life. Who are you outside of just your business? I'm in the business of real estate. One of the key things in real estate is more, people don't really care. It's truly transactional. Now, I had realtors I've met who come up to me in networking functions, hand me their business card, and their business card says on the back of it, a referral is my greatest way of saying thank you, a greatest compliment, a greatest gift of service. And I'm thinking to myself, I just met you, just gave me your business card. Why on earth would I refer you to someone else in my network, but I don't know anything about you? And I know about 50 realtors, right? So why would I just let you just jump that line and get my referral just because you're asking for it, right? So
Yeah.
where I'm going with this is that's where a plan becomes key, because once you have a life plan, I want to know who you are. Like, one of the key things that I started my networking events off, we had our networking before the pandemic. The key question I would ask people is, what is your purpose? Not what do you do? What is your purpose? Right? Because if you can't really articulate that answer, that lets me know about how you think as an individual. And again, I'm not saying it from a judgment standpoint. It just lets me know just kind of how you see things. Because most people, particularly in the DC area, Washington, DC area that I worked in, that's definitely an area that's all about your title. What do you do? You know, who do you know? People always ask those key questions, right? And my thing is, if I don't like you as an individual, I can really care less what you do. So let me know what's your plan in life. Then we can talk about what's your business plan, your marketing plan, you know, your engagement plan for the community. All those fit under plan, and within the conscious business systems, we help you develop those things. If you have a business plan, we want to make sure that it incorporates story. It's something that people can resonate with. Other folks can
because the plan, when you get to that phase number 4, as you said, it is hierarchical, right? So as you get to 4, the plan has to exude faith, principles, and purpose. And if you're going to somebody and just giving them a very vanilla, non-story based plan, it's not going to influence them to want to get into your network or do business with you. So
Exactly.
part of your business plan, you have to talk about your background. Pitch decks, you have to include why you are the person in your story, what makes you the best fit to, be the owner of this company, or what makes you the best fit for the private equity firm to want to fund you, right? What's your background? Are you trying to roll out a new video game console and, you are a writer, or are you trying to roll out a new video game console and you had 20 years at Nintendo? It becomes very clear there that if you have those 20 years at Nintendo and you have a story as to, how you got there through your business plan, that makes you a better fit for investment. So this also goes into the VC world. And some of these also should be incorporated into pitch decks and proposals to do business with other parties. So I see where you're coming from with the plan concept.
Absolutely. And then to add on to what you just said as well, in addition to that, you using your example, if you are a gamer and you program a game, it's like, okay, but what's all the purpose of the game other than for entertainment? And that might be the purpose of it, but you might say, well, with the funds I make from it, I'm going to do X.
Yes.
Right.
Give back, donate. Yeah.
It's some form of service in some context has to be integrated into your plan, and that's what's going to resonate with the investors, the people in my network. That's what they're looking to get out of it. That's what they want to see. And that's why I'm working with my clients to help make sure that's communicated clearly. It's there, even though we're not talking about nonprofits, we're for-profit companies, but you have to have a service-based kind of model, a service-based mission, right?
Yes.
Next, you want to go to your team. So your team is going to be critical because it also shows your ability, number one, to be a leader and assemble the right people around you. Number two, it also is going to let me know, have you thought through your strengths and your weaknesses? I'll give you an example real quick. I had a client of mine, he was really a mentor and he became a client, but then I had to kind of separate myself because he didn't follow suit to what my example I'm going to give. His model was bringing organic coffee from Ethiopia. And he wanted to really go out here and bring individual coffee stores, they call them coffee huts, into the community. The community can come out and be engaged. So purpose, principles, faith, all that lined up, as well as a great plan. All those things were in sync. He was hitting every checklist until we got to team. And then we really began to discuss things, when I realized his background was around marketing and branding and storytelling. So he was a great person to communicate that, but what his weakness was really building a business that can sit here and distribute coffee. He didn't have that experience. And he refused to hire other individuals who had the experience to help him. He wanted to do things his way.
No,
And he was so focused on that, I couldn't help him beyond it.
that's where the ego really comes to play. And I see this with a lot of our clients. So to kind of go into that a little bit, we offer entrepreneurship business coaching along some of these same lines of your key points of the conscious business system. That's why this is helping me quite a bit, because it's making it conscious. That's what we spoke about, not making it in the subliminal mind, but actually putting it to the forefront and using your conscious through these principles to move through a network. So for what you were just talking about, a lot of times we have individuals that have good plans, good ideas, but they aren't open to bringing on mentorship as a key part of their team, right?
Absolutely.
Or they're not open to wanting to collaborate or hear advice as to how you should hire a marketing agent to help you out. Maybe this is a part of the ego of the individual that they feel like they're perfectly good at. It's like, well, no, you're not perfectly good at this. And I think this was a principle and concept that I learned from the music industry in music production, where I had to come to terms with myself that I was a great singer. I wasn't a great writer. I wasn't a great actual engineer of beats. And so what I had to do was come to terms, well, know where my strong suits are. Know that my strong suit is in actually singing, actually coming up with the melodies, and then bringing on a writer and bringing on an audio engineer. And this is the real key, is being less ego driven and figuring out how to build the team. That's a huge issue for a lot of people. And that's one that Patrick does not struggle with, is team building at all.
Absolutely. And to your point, I remember one of his videos he put out, he talked about entrepreneur. And he talked about, again, I forgot.
I love that term, don't you? Entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He talked about the stingypreneur, I believe, too. And I sent that to a friend of mine because she suffers from that, right? Where what he was alluding to was a person, and this is something that most small business entrepreneurs suffer from. And this is why I talk about the plan and having the mentor coaching to work with, is that she wants to do every single thing, right? So I'm gonna build my own website, right? I'm gonna do my own bookkeeping. I'm gonna do my own marketing, right? I'm gonna do my own social media marketing. And I keep telling her that you need to outsource that to other individuals, right? I said, I sat down with her and said, how much do you think you're worth per hour? And she gave me a dollar figure. I'm worth $75, $125 an hour, right? So I said, well, how much? So you figure if you spend 30 hours building your website, that's how much your website costs, right? That lets you know, right? And do you really want to pay that much for a website where really, to be honest, a website is really only valuable if you have a call to action? You know what I'm saying? Because without driving traffic to it and having a clear call to action, here's what we do, here's how you can take advantage of our services. That's what most people go to websites for. They don't really go to websites looking to just read all about the company's background and story and all that. You're on the website for about 12, on a web page for about 12 seconds. How do I contact? How do I do this? How do I get this? How much does this cost? What's the value? That's what a person's on the website looking for. That's not communicated well, then you wasted your money. So whether you spend $10,000 on the website or $500 on the website, it still needs to fit that principle. So what I'm saying is, going back to her being a selfishpreneur, trying to do every single thing and not hiring a team. And I sat down with her and I said, here's what you should do. As you begin to make money, but you want to have a plan for this, you want to say, the first person, I believe that, and I tell this to folks, as a small business owner, the first person I recommend that you hire is a bookkeeper. Because you want to make sure that someone is keeping your books from the very start. Because once your business, because I believe people don't plan to be successful. They hope to be successful. But the biggest mistake people have is they become successful financially, and then you don't have time to go back and deal with any of these things anymore, right? So now it's time to either apply for a loan or do your taxes, and your receipts are everywhere. Your books are not kept in order. And a bookkeeper is $75 an hour, right? I mean, $75, depending on, you're a small business owner, they're not really doing much work anyway. Setting everything up, getting things unquickened for you, giving you a process, you can upload your data and send your invoices out, and you're paying them $75 a month for that.
So this also comes into, it's the same exact principle, just tweaked a little bit, that I'm hearing from you. So Patrick has a principle where if you're doing an action that is worth less dollar amount than your highest capacity. So my highest capacity, right, is I'll put this on myself. My highest capacity per hour is to be making calls to individuals, setting them up with mentorship, setting them up with direct access to Patrick for a particular dollar amount of hour. If I really put that and it comes from doing the breakdown. It's not what is it? What is my dollar amount an hour? No, it's based off of your year divided to get down to that, that hour amount. And if you're doing anything within your day that is not worth that dollar amount, it's worth it for you to outsource that action. Patrick's big on getting, at let's say 10 employees, that's when you shift and you get an executive assistant, because that's when your life gets, this is part of his time management strategy that a lot of people really don't. They're like, how do I get enough time for my wife and my kids and work and my life? Well, it's building it out strategically to where when you get to a certain point, okay, I need an admin. Okay, at this point I need 2 admins. Okay, at this point I need somebody to take my laundry. He tells these stories where he hasn't done dry cleaning. He hasn't delivered his dry cleaner or gotten a single oil change since he was like 22, 23 years old.
Yes.
And it's the optimization of time that you're talking about. You don't do any action that is not worth that hour of your time.
Absolutely.
And that's where outsourcing comes into play. That's where you start to identify, what do I outsource first? For me, it's admin work that's taking away my time, sending emails, taking away from my number one function. So that was the first thing that I outsourced. I got an admin, just how you do it. But I learned that from Patrick, but I'm learning that from you as well. So that's great.
And see, for me, I say for myself, I want to build $1 billion fund, right? Now, I've never raised $1 billion. So I have to have people on my team who are financial experts, legal experts, that when the folks who have the capability to put $1 million to my fund, they dialogue with them. I have the vision, but I can't be the fund manager, right?
Yes.
I'm only going to get so far because everyone's going to bring up, what's your experience of managing that kind of money? So I have to have someone on my team that has that kind of experience. And so that costs money, right? Social media marketing. If I don't want to do that work, which I have systems in place to do most of my work, but eventually I will outsource it to somebody to manage the systems that I've built. So that team is important because it helps strengthen your weaknesses that you may have. And it shows that you are willing to do that self-assessment of yourself, and you're conscious to know, here's what my true skill set is. And I have other people on my team to offset everything. Content writers. You may have to actually outsource all the folks who write your content if you're not good at writing, right? That's how you build something. See, for me, I have one philosophy behind the conscious business systems. It's that you force the opportunity to come your way. You want to have a system in place that's measurable, that's quantifiable, and that you can look at and say, this is not going right. I want to modify this, so I want to force it to come my way. And that's where we move on to number 6, which is the action. Action is something that not only action in the context of taking your ideal and put it into action, but action also in being a person of integrity, meaning that you do what you say, your words and your actions are in sync. There's an old, I read this about Gandhi. They say one time Gandhi was giving a speech before India got its independence. And he was speaking before this British cabinet. And they were so enthralled with the fact he was able to speak for 2 hours without any notes. And one of the guys behind him asked Gandhi's assistant, he said, how in the world can he speak for 2 hours without any notes? Most folks have to have some kind of notes, to keep them on track. And he said, because everything that he's saying is who he is. So he doesn't have to remember anything. He's speaking directly from his heart because his actions, his words are in line. And to me, that's where integrity comes into play. Also, action come into play as far as what is your operating hours? What's your level of professionalism? Being clear on when someone contacts you, what is your procedure for how quickly you get back with them? Is it 24 hours? Is it 1 hour? All those things have to be thought through and put on paper as far as your action and execution step as well. What are you saying to your clients? One of the interviews that I found to be very informative that Patrick did, he interviewed a gentleman by name who I never heard of previously to watching the video, was Donald Miller.
That
And
happens a lot. People that you've never heard of that you're like, how have I never heard of this individual?
Exactly.
on the interviews, because he's obviously tapped into this network world of people from like every branch now. We're talking military, we're talking SWAT, we're talking politicians, every realm of philosophers, Jordan Peterson. I mean, that's the one that I'm like, how do you get access to Jordan Peterson?
Yes.
Like that is tremendous. And it comes through sharing some of, the values, principles, purpose, faith, the same plan for the US. And then it requires the team to be able to hop in and take advantage of the opportunity, because if Patrick doesn't have the videography team and production team to do anything with that, what is the sit down going to do? Teamwork's really about being prepared for the opportunity that comes to you once you have the plan, faith, principles, and purpose. And I think that's exactly what you expressed earlier. And then it's owning up to the proposition or the opportunity that you have. That's where the action comes in, and being, make a promise, keep a promise. If you're texting Jordan Peterson, you tell him, hey, let's sit down for an interview next week on Wednesday. You have to keep that promise, make a promise, keep a promise. And that's where the action step comes in. And then also after that point, once you sit down with the individual, you have to provide value. If you don't provide value, what's the likelihood that Jordan would want to come back and do a second interview? This is something that a lot of people that I'm just realizing now. It's not that he sat down with the guy once, it's that he sat down with the guy multiple occasions, which means that he added a ton of value to the interaction, to somebody who I'm assuming intellectual conversation is pretty hard to come by for Jordan Peterson, right?
Absolutely.
And so to get him to sit back down was a credibility to Patrick that I don't think he fully realized. Wow, holy cow, he came back. You got one of the greatest thinkers of all time to come back through the action, the value, the team, the plan, the faith, the principles, and the purpose. And then, of course, adding on top of value is service, is giving back. Maybe you do a charity event with the individual. Maybe that's a way that they can really give back to the community, right?
Absolutely.
And that's how you start to build social capital, right? That's how you start to build social capital with these individuals. And maybe they have a similar energy and then systems as well. So it's just great how, this can all be talked through. All of these points that you have here in the business system make sense, and they all have a purpose and reason for why they're there, right?
Exactly.
And I would love to go through every single point. I think that through the coaching and what we've covered so far on this, I think I have a really good grasp of the conscious business system. I know from our last talks, we also have some content there or some footage there of you talking through some of these other key points. So what I would like to do now, with the time that we have left, is actually share with you my screen to go through the ABS. Can we do that? Does that work with you?
One last thing,
okay?
then I'll turn over
Sure.
control. I just want to point this out. When I say systems number 11, what I'm referring to there is having a database, your marketing systems, your human resource systems. Those things have to be in place as well, and managing this whole thing. And I want to close.
Which is where you come in with your database background, right?
Exactly.
Without you at the systems, there's not a way to really graph this or put this to display. And that's where your brain chart comes in. The brain chart that you share, that's a systems background, right? Understanding systems and connectivity, right?
Exactly.
That's your expertise. That's what makes you genuinely different from all the other content producers out there, all the other coaches out there, is this particular background that you have, which is exciting.
Exactly. And then, like I said, the final point on this, then we'll move on. I'll share my, then you control the screen.
Sure.
The reason that they're separated is that they can be tackled and quantified at every level. That's what's so important, right? You can't just come in and say, my business is not making any money. Why is it not making any money? It's purpose, principles, so on and so forth. So that's why it's so important to separate, because that way you can come at each level and spend time and expertise and work to improve at each level.
That's great. That's great. And then it sounds like at the very end of it, once you have all that together, you need to get somebody on board who understands systems to be able to make everything work, especially in a fully automated and online world. If you don't have the ability to put together the system, if you look at some of the work that's out there with the software platforms like Lightspeed, right? Lightspeed is a way for you to display all of your online material. Everything that you've put together, you need the systems in place to be able to express it to the people or your network, right? So,
Exactly.
and build that database, we could be doing all this work. We could be doing all this intense business coaching work, but if we don't do the events to create the community that then we input onto a database system, there's no Valuetainment network, right?
Exactly.
YouTube is sort of interacting as a system itself, where people come and they comment. It's interactive. So YouTube's a system, Google's a system, but it really helps to have somebody on board, like you said, outsourcing somebody who understands systems, which is also how you do your connectivity work, which was, some of like to do another video at some point down the line about the LinkedIn process, which you shared last time. But your LinkedIn process of exactly how you execute, and you get that from your understanding of systems, right? How it works. So let me share this with you. Just give me 1 second. I got to make sure that I don't have any client information up here, and I'll share my screen in just a second. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you now is the Advanced Business Strategies course on the website. Should have already had this pulled up. I do apologize.
No problem.
Okay. So what we do is we go into, it's part of the Vault Academy. See if I can pull it up here. So for the ABS.
Did you click share the screen? The screen hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna pull this up and then I'll share it. Okay. I have to grant access and privacy firewall general. Not 100% sure why. Let's do it this way. Do you want to pull it up on yours and share it? It's patrickbetdavid.com/courses. /courses/ is what it is. patrickbetdavid.com/courses. It wasn't allowing me to share my screen for some reason. I'm not sure. Privacy setting. So just for time, we'll do it this way.
You see my screen here?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll give you a little background to this course prior to diving into the material that we see on the screen. In 2020, the Vault conference had to be canceled. So they had one in 2019 where Patrick went over, he had launched Your Next 5 Moves. It was going to be business strategy live in Texas. And so after having to cancel it because of COVID, they actually went in and did this course, which is an interactive, very artistic, as you can see there, he kind of looks like Morpheus from the Matrix sitting in the chair.
Right.
He's no Lawrence Fishburne, but he's sitting in the chair and the chess pieces. So the visuals are very captivating, but it goes through every single part of his story and journey, along with PDF, personal audits throughout the way. So with these personal audits, they were actually the ones that Patrick did early on in his career as a young man to try to figure out exactly what he wanted. So he guides you through that very similar process here. And I don't know if you can play the video, but yeah, if we could play that and share that.
What's your next move? That's you.
Can you
What
hear
are your
it?
next 5, 10, 15 moves? Just like a chess grandmaster knows their next 10 or 15 moves. What are your next 10 or 15 moves in business, in life? See, this is exactly why I produced a course called the Advanced Business Strategy with over 450 slides to go through. And you can pick and choose some of these slides here. This one right here is move number 5, master power plays. You may want to say, you know what? I want to get better at negotiating sessions. A whole session on how to negotiate and have proper sit downs and being prepared for scripts of what to say. Or maybe you may be saying, you know what? I want to get better at going out there raising money. How do I raise money? Specific strategies of how to raise tens of millions of dollars. Look, if you want to take your life and your business to the next level, go to thevaultacademy.com and take the course, the Advanced Business Strategy session, so you are crystal clear on your next 5, 10, 15 moves. See you at thevaultacademy.com.
So I figure it'd be best to hear it from the man himself, right?
Absolutely.
But getting your next 5 to 15 moves in place, right? Very interesting. If we don't have things planned out in a very precise, systematic way, whether it's being an entrepreneur within a company or an entrepreneur, part of it, then you won't get very far. You'll fail at some point. You don't have that next thing, that next interaction that you're going to have with that new employee. If you don't have that thought out prior as to exactly how you're going to treat employees that come onto your company, and if you don't manage expectations, you're going to be at a loss. You're going to be at loss for words when that opportunity comes and that moment comes. But I think what's very cool is this incorporated with the wealth of Patrick's knowledge within his business career into the conscious business system, right? As part of the onboarding process, is going to only develop these principles that you've set in place. The conscious business system, points that you shared with me earlier, those come into play for planning your next 5 to 10 moves very efficiently. They've helped me in planning my next 5 to 10 moves. And that's where I think the system itself, the values, the principles, the faith in the betterment of mankind, that everybody can be an entrepreneur, that everybody can go and create that freedom for themselves in life. I think that's where it all comes into play, and it works very well with each other. So I think you're going to really find that the ABS is a perfect strategy to get people onboarded into your program. And that's what I'm very excited about, is for you to dive into this yourself, King, for your clients to dive into this course. And I think it's going to take everybody to the next level and really be able to help them execute their next 5 to 10 moves in conjunction with using the conscious business system that you've set in place.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And see, for me, what this does is gives me the opportunity while I take the course to allow Patrick Bet-David to be my coach and my teacher.
Yes.
At a time that I can control, because it's videos to watch. And most entrepreneurs understand that if you're not a person that can do self-knowledge, which means watch videos and take your own courses, if you need someone else to teach you that outside your own commitment to want to learn, then that's going to be a problem. And this 200-page manual, when I saw this course, even the price, it's like to learn from someone who's doing it, not someone who's done it maybe a decade ago, and he's no longer in the business. Now he's just teaching.
He's doing it now. Yeah.
He's still doing it now. Is impressive.
That's what we talk about. That's part of the proposition, is that Patrick is currently building 2 companies. He's still building PHP from originally 60 agents to 20,000 plus, growing 25,000, 30,000, 50,000. And now he's setting systems in place where he has recreated himself, 10 different versions of himself through his coaching, to where they can kind of carry the company. So now he can step out and work on, valuetainment a little bit more in depth, or at least work on both. So it all comes into play. And now with valuetainment, we're growing very rapidly, and we're going to be creating some content that you've never seen before as an organization. So I'm very excited.
I could believe that, because I've already seen content I never seen before from watching some of the videos. And like I said, I look at master building the right team. So for me, what I found to be so intriguing to me was how much a lot of the things he's saying already resonates.
Yes.
So it's not that I didn't know that, so I shouldn't have to learn it. It's basically reinforcing what I already know, confirming that in order to get to that next level that he's at, I'm on the right path.
Yes.
And what I love about here is this personal identity audit, right? So for me, this is what I really wanted to be able to offer my team, folks who take my conscious business systems, is that you need to be able to understand from a person who's already financially successful where you are, how they look at your business and can tell you what's wrong and what's missing. I can build the systems around that. I can make the connections around that. But Patrick, in this course here, brings that together. So that's, to your point, that to me is a synergy and combining the two.
And this is one step, right? This is a first step in a process that gets very exciting, where some people, after doing the ABS course, they actually come on and do the Elite Mastermind with Patrick, where he gives that live feedback of what is wrong in your business and identifies that in real time, which allows people to pivot. That's the most important part that some of these business owners deal with. When you get to 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10 million dollar a year revenue, it's how do I pivot to either increase, or how do I pivot out of this issue that could potentially cost me what I've built, right? And that's where that direct mentorship comes into play. That's where the mentorship within the ABS saves you time, saves you hassle, saves you, heartache for losing what you've built. And at any point in the entrepreneur process, this is a great fit, especially because of that personal identity audit. Absolutely. So I think, King, dude, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. I've really enjoyed a couple of our last talks that we've had, over Zoom. We'll continue to do this in the future, continue to dive in the as you say, the endless possibilities. And I'm just very much looking forward to the future and to the present. I love the present, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we go, Donnie,
Sure.
What does your shirt say?
So this says, "I'm an entrepreneur," is what it says.
Okay.
Which is a term that I first heard from Patrick. There's a different path that if you need a different side of coaching and mentorship, actually. Mario, who is Patrick's entrepreneur over the years. I mean, this guy has stayed with him through thick and thin. He has now started a new series called the Entrepreneur Series, therefore the shirt, where it coaches you and teaches you how to be a better employee, how to provide value within an organization. So this could go from anybody from working at Wendy's all the way up to an employee at Google. And the strategies that you need to put in place, like routine is very important, managing what you do in the morning, during the day. It's all things that will then eventually lead to, if you decide to go off into an entrepreneur journey, the same concepts are there, but this is kind of angling it as to what he did to be the person that he is to Patrick, right? To be that person, to be the COO of the company, right? Not the CEO, but the COO, which then at some point might even take over the CEO, position down the line, right? So it's kind of strategizing to be a C-suite executive within a company. So I personally look at myself right now as a committed entrepreneur to Valuetainment, because I love the organization and I love working for Patrick. So that's why I'm wearing the shirt today.
I love the shirt. I love the concept. Again, I'm honored and excited to continue to work with Valuetainment. I know we're going to do some great things in the future. We're going to help entrepreneurs, conscious entrepreneurs, from my perspective, really learn how to grow their business, but more importantly, do it in a way that's fulfilling to them spiritually. So that's really what my goal behind the whole conscious model is. It's not just getting money and then you sitting around unhappy. I think a lot of people look at Donald Trump. I'm not saying this from a political context. I'm saying his business experience, and say he's very successful in that. But does he look happy?
Does he look happy? Yeah.
Right. I look at Patrick. He always looks happy. He smiles on that picture, And the people that he's had on his interview told me, the folks who I've loved, Ray Dalio, they're all happy, and that's where I believe conscious business systems can get you to. And that's why I want to combine these courses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things about Patrick that I'll share that really, it didn't catch me off guard, and I'm not surprised. but he is so funny. It's scary how funny he is. He can make you crack up in at any moment. And I think humor is also something that a lot of people in business, don't provide enough of. I think humor and, lightheartedness at certain times can be very beneficial and very useful. But I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, this has been great, King. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, and let's hop on another call soon. Okay. And dive into this even deeper.
Absolutely, Donnie. You enjoy the rest of your day, and let's continue to keep building.
Great. Awesome. And let me know, with the footage, if you end up editing it or any part of that, please send it my way. I'd love to share it through all the platforms. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Peace.
Peace.